Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive into something that might sound a little, well, intimidating.
Taxes. You bet.
We're tackling IRS Form W-12 today,
Uh-oh.
the application for a PTIN.
That's a paid preparer tax identification number, by the way.
Yeah, you need this little guy if you're getting paid to prepare tax returns.
Even if you're an enrolled agent.
We're gonna break it down,
Step by step.
show you all the quirks and
We even found some
insider tips
from this YouTube video I was watching.
That could be fine.
All right, let's jump in.
So,
This form, a lot of people think
yeah,
it's optional, like extra credit or something,
right.
but it's actually required
It is.
by the IRS if you're getting paid to prepare those returns.
Yeah, it's like your
It's a
official.
stamp of approval.
And for enrolled agents, it's tied to keeping those credentials active.
You got it.
It's like the IRS is saying, hey, we see you out there, tax whizzes. Get your badge.
You got it.
So let's walk through the W-12.
Right.
Starts off pretty basic, asking for your name.
Makes sense.
If you're renewing, you'll need your current PTIN too.
Uh-huh.
Did you know you can actually put your PTIN on hold
Really?
through the IRS website if you're taking a break from tax prep?
That's cool.
Pretty handy if you've got other adventures planned.
Yeah, that is.
It's like the IRS understands
They do.
that not everyone prepares taxes year-round.
Now, Section 2 gets a little interesting.
Okay.
If you're applying between October 1st and December 31st, you get to choose whether you want your PTIN active for the current year or the next.
Wow, so it's like a
Choose your own adventure.
for your PTIN.
Exactly.
What if I prepared some returns a few years back and didn't have a PTIN?
Oh, yeah, good point.
Can I?
You can actually apply.
Retroactively?
The IRS gives you the option to get everything squared away, even for prior years.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Next up is Section 3,
Okay.
where you'll need to provide your Social Security number and date of birth.
The basics.
No surprises there, except maybe how seriously the IRS takes this. They will reject your application if you skip this step.
Seriously.
Seriously.
Wow.
Now, I know some folks might have concerns about providing their SSN,
Sure.
and the IRS does have alternative processes for those with religious objections or who are foreign nationals.
That's good.
We'll be sure to include links to those forms in the show notes.
Very important point, making sure everyone has a way to apply
Absolutely.
while respecting those beliefs and circumstances.
Sections 4 and 5
Okay.
are all about location, location, location,
Uh-huh.
personal address, business address, phone numbers.
Got it.
Here's where it gets interesting.
Okay, I'm listening.
That business address you provide could end up on the IRS website.
Like a public directory.
It's like a public directory of tax preparers.
Wow.
So you want to double check that info, right?
It does.
It's all about transparency.
Yeah.
The IRS wants to make it easier for taxpayers to find those qualified preparers, and part of that is making sure the information out there is accurate and up to date.
Okay, now we're getting into the
Alphabet soup.
of tax IDs with Section 6.
We've got EIN.
E of N.
If you're self-employed or have a business, you might recognize the EIN.
Right. Your employer identification number.
Think of it as your business's social security number,
Makes sense.
and then there's the EM5.
Yeah, your electronic filer identification number.
You'll need that if you're submitting tax returns electronically.
So all of these
Yeah.
these numbers have specific forms associated with them.
Oh, yeah.
The SS4 for an EIN,
Gotcha.
for example.
Like each piece of the puzzle
Yeah.
has its own instruction booklet.
It does.
Sections 7 and 8
Right.
cover a few key things.
Okay.
Your email address,
Important.
any felony convictions in the past 10 years,
Okay.
and details about your most recent tax return.
Makes sense.
First up, that email address.
Yeah.
Make sure it's one you actually check because, believe it or not,
Okay.
the IRS will use it to communicate with you.
It's true.
That's how they stay in touch, send updates, and even send those notices no one wants to see.
It happens.
Then we have the felony conviction question.
Interesting.
Full disclosure here.
Okay.
This is a sworn statement, so honesty is the best policy.
Right.
Now, having a felony conviction doesn't automatically disqualify you from getting a PTIN.
I see.
The IRS understands people make mistakes and deserve second chances.
Yeah, but they do want to know about it.
Exactly.
And if you've never filed a tax return before,
Oh, good point.
the IRS has specific instructions on what to provide.
Oh, okay.
Usually copies of your Social Security card and a government-issued photo ID.
Okay, great.
On to Sections 9 and 10,
Okay.
where you'll need to indicate your filing status
Uh-huh.
and confirm you're up to date on all your tax obligations,
All of them.
personal and business.
Oh, wow.
If you answer no to that tax compliance question, be prepared to write a little essay explaining why.
Oh boy.
It's a good reminder that as a tax preparer,
Yeah.
you're held to a high standard when it comes to your own taxes.
Right.
You're helping others navigate the system, so it's important to show you're following the rules yourself.
Now, sections 11 and 12
Right.
bring up data security and professional credentials.
Yeah.
You'll need to acknowledge your responsibilities when it comes to safeguarding taxpayer information.
Right.
And there are even IRS publications.
No, right.
Like 4557 and 5045017 that break it all down.
Those publications are like
Yeah.
the IRS's guide to data security best practices.
So it's like,
Think of it this way. You're handling sensitive information,
right.
and the IRS wants to make sure you're taking all the necessary steps to protect it.
You can also list any professional credentials you have.
Sure.
Like enrolled agent or CPA.
Yeah.
But don't worry, you don't need a fancy title to get a PTIN.
That's right. The PTIN itself is about establishing a baseline level of competency for anyone who wants to prepare tax returns for others.
Levels the playing field.
It does.
Finally,
Here we are.
we reach section 13,
Okay.
the grand finale.
The end is near.
Fees and signatures.
Ah, yes.
Here's where choosing to apply online can save you a few bucks.
It can.
The fee for a PTIN in 2024 is $19.75.
Not too bad.
You can apply for multiple years at once.
Okay.
But if you're mailing in your application, you'll need to send separate checks for each year.
Oh.
Plus, online applications are processed instantly, while mailed applications can take up to 6 weeks.
So the IRS is gently nudging everyone toward the digital age.
It seems like it.
Online applications are faster, more efficient,
Definitely.
and help everyone save a few trees in the process. Welcome back.
All right, so last time.
We walked through that W-12.
We did.
But getting that PTIN,
Oh, yeah.
that's just the first step.
Right.
It's like getting your driver's license.
Okay.
It gives you permission. But the real test is using that permission responsibly.
It's true.
Holding a PTIN means
Yeah.
you're stepping into a position of trust.
Big time.
You're handling people's financial lives, sensitive information, working within this complex web of regulations.
It's a big responsibility.
Absolutely.
So what does ethical tax preparation
It's crucial. Like
in practice?
it is.
What are some of the key responsibilities?
Well, for starters,
Yeah.
PTIN holders have to follow this strict code of conduct
Oh, wow.
outlined in IRS Publication 1345, also known as Circular 230.
Okay.
This publication covers everything
Wow.
from confidentiality to due diligence,
Sounds intense.
essentially laying out the ground rules for tax preparers.
It's like,
Rule
okay.
book for the tax prep game.
So one of the most important concepts in Circular 230 is due diligence.
Yes.
What does that mean for someone preparing taxes?
Due diligence means taking reasonable steps
Okay.
to make sure the information you're using for tax returns is accurate.
So you're not just taking their word for it.
You're asking the right questions,
Right.
verifying documentation, not just taking your client's word for it.
That was like being a
financial detective.
You're piecing together this puzzle
You are?
using income statements, receipts, and all those fun tax documents
Right.
to get a complete and accurate picture of your client's financial situation.
Exactly.
What if some of those puzzle pieces don't quite fit?
They don't always.
What if a client wants to claim a deduction that seems, well, too good to be true?
That's where your ethical compass comes in.
Okay.
As a tax preparer,
Yeah.
you have a responsibility to advise your client against taking positions that lack a reasonable basis
Okay.
or could be considered frivolous.
What if you and a client disagree about something like that?
Oh, that happens.
Does the client always get their way?
Not necessarily.
Huh?
Circular 230 makes it clear
Huh?
that you are not obligated to prepare a return that you believe is fraudulent or misleading.
I see.
In fact, doing so could get you in trouble with the IRS.
So clear communication
Very important.
is important.
You need to explain to your client
Yeah.
the potential consequences
Right.
of taking a risky tax position.
Got it.
It's about educating them on the tax laws
Right.
and helping them understand the risks involved.
Now let's talk about confidentiality.
Okay.
As a PTIN holder,
Yes.
you have access to very personal information.
That's true.
Social security numbers, bank account details.
Probably.
Protecting that information is paramount.
It is.
Circular 230
Yes.
has very specific rules about handling tax-related data.
It needs to be stored securely and can only be used for its intended purpose.
Got it.
You can't just share it with anyone without proper authorization.
It's like a,
Doctor-patient confidentiality?
but for taxes,
Yeah. Yeah.
You wouldn't want your medical records out in the open.
Exactly.
And your clients don't want their financial details spread around either.
Right.
And remember those data security responsibilities?
Oh, yeah.
We mentioned when we talked about the W-12. Those are especially important
They are.
when you're dealing with this kind of sensitive information.
You need to have systems in place to protect taxpayer information, both physically and electronically.
So we've got due diligence,
Uh-huh.
ethical decision-making,
We do.
confidentiality.
What about staying up to date?
Oh, yeah. Tax laws
The change.
seem to change all the time.
And the IRS expects
I bet.
tax preparers to stay current on all the latest tax laws and regulations.
So does that mean,
This means
like, continuing education?
continuing education courses, reading industry publications,
Oh, wow.
basically keeping your finger on the pulse
So it's like
of any new developments.
like a doctor staying current
Exactly.
on the latest medical research?
You wouldn't want a doctor operating with outdated techniques.
No,
Your clients deserve tax advice that's based on the most up-to-date information.
that's fair.
Thankfully, the IRS offers a ton of resources
They do.
to help tax preparers stay informed.
Okay.
Publications, webinars, training programs, and more.
Wow.
There's really no excuse for falling behind.
This makes it seem
It is
even more complex.
It can.
Is it ever okay for a tax preparer to just say, I don't know?
It is.
Okay.
It's actually more ethical
Wow.
to admit when you don't know something than to try and bluff your way through it.
Okay.
If you come across a situation
Yeah.
that's outside your area of expertise,
Right.
you have a responsibility to refer your client to a specialist
Right.
or seek guidance from a more experienced professional.
So it's like a general practitioner
It is.
referring you to a specialist for a complicated medical condition.
Exactly.
It's about putting the client's needs first.
Yes.
Even if that means acknowledging your limitations.
Exactly.
Speaking of putting the client first, let's talk about fees.
Fees are definitely an area where transparency is key.
Definitely.
You need to be upfront with your clients about your fee structure
Uh-huh.
and make sure your fees are reasonable for the services you're providing.
Yeah, no one likes surprise bills,
No one does.
especially when it comes to taxes.
And while it might be tempting to try and undercut the competition,
Right.
getting into a price war can lead to cutting corners and compromising quality.
Absolutely.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's important to value your expertise
Yes.
and charge accordingly.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
But it seems like the main takeaway is that being a responsible tax preparer means
It's
understanding your obligations
to your client.
to your clients, the IRS,
Yeah.
and the integrity of the entire system.
It's about going beyond simply filling out forms
Oh.
and realizing that you're playing an important role in a system that affects everyone.
I'm ready to test out some of this newfound knowledge.
Okay.
Let's dive into some real-life scenarios that highlight the ethical dilemmas
Right.
tax preparers face every day.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's put all this talk about ethics into action
Right.
with some real-world scenarios.
I like it.
These are the kinds of situations tax preparers face
Oh, yeah.
all the time,
Every day.
and they often require some
Careful thing.
and a strong sense of,
Right and wrong.
you ready to play?
Let's do it.
What would you do? Tax edition.
I am ready. It is fascinating how these seemingly simple situations can raise some complex ethical questions.
Okay, first scenario.
Hit me.
The generous deduction.
Okay.
You're working with a client who really wants to deduct a home office expense.
Common one.
They claim they use their spare bedroom exclusively for work. But your spidey sense is tingling.
Oh, no.
You suspect they might be exaggerating a bit.
What do you do? This is the perfect example of why due diligence is so important.
Right.
You can't just...
Take their word for it.
You need to ask for documentation, like receipts or a log of hours worked, to support that deduction.
Okay.
And it's a good opportunity to remind them about the IRS guidelines for home office deductions.
What if they push back,
They might.
insisting they deserve the deduction?
Yeah.
Even without the documentation.
It happens.
Do you give in just to keep them happy?
That's where it gets tough.
Yeah.
Remember, your responsibility is to the integrity of the tax system,
Okay.
not to making your clients happy.
Got it.
You can't prepare a return
Right.
that you believe is inaccurate or fraudulent,
Right.
even if it means losing a client.
Sometimes you have to be the voice of reason,
Sometimes you do.
even if it's not what the client wants to hear.
That's true.
Okay, next scenario.
Bring it on.
The missing receipts.
Ooh,
Your client shows up with a mountain of receipts,
I've seen it.
but they're missing documentation for a big business expense.
Oh, no.
They say they lost the receipt, but swear the expense is legit.
Mm,
How do you navigate that? Good record keeping is so important.
it is.
You can suggest they try to
Uh-huh.
reconstruct the missing documentation.
Bank statements, credit card statements,
Yeah.
anything that could back up that expense.
But what if they can't find anything? Can they still claim the expense?
Unfortunately,
Okay.
the IRS requires proof for deductions. Without it, claiming that expense could raise red flags during an audit.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's important to be upfront with your client about the risks and maybe explore alternative options,
Okay.
like claiming a smaller, more conservative deduction that they can support.
Okay, last scenario,
Okay.
the conflict of interest.
Oh, boy.
You're preparing a return for a close friend,
Oh.
and they ask you to tweak some numbers to lower their tax bill.
Hmm.
They promise to make it worth your while.
This is a classic conflict of interest.
It is.
And it's best to avoid these situations altogether.
Yeah,
You have to explain to your friend that you can't compromise your professional ethics
right.
and suggest they find another preparer.
What if your friend insists,
They might.
saying they trust you more than anyone else?
You have to remember
Right.
that your professional obligations come first.
Definitely.
You have a responsibility to uphold the law
Uh-huh.
and maintain the integrity of your PTIN.
Yeah.
It's not worth risking your career or reputation.
These scenarios really highlight the gray areas
They do.
of tax preparation.
They're out there.
It's not always easy to know.
It's not the right thing to do.
That's why having a strong ethical framework is so important.
right.
It's about understanding your responsibilities and having the courage to do what's right, even when it's difficult.
Well, I think we've covered just about everything
I think we have.
when it comes to Form W-12 and the ethical landscape of tax preparation.
It's a lot.
We've gone from the basics of the form itself
Yeah.
to the weighty responsibilities that come with holding a PTIN.
It's a journey
It is.
of continuous learning, ethical decision-making,
Mm.
and always striving to uphold the highest standards in your practice.
It's more than just filling out forms.
It is.
It's about understanding the impact you have on your clients,
your client.
the tax system, and really society as a whole.
You are playing a vital role in ensuring a fair and functioning tax system.
It's a big deal.
And that's something to be proud of. And remember,
What's that?
there are resources out there to guide you along the way.
There are.
The IRS, professional organizations, even other tax preparers can offer valuable insights and support.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid to ask for help
Right.
or seek guidance when you need it.
So there you have it, folks.
We made it.
We've reached the end of our deep dive
You did.
into the world of PTINs and ethical tax preparation.
Lots of information.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights and feel empowered to navigate the complexities of the tax world
Yes.
with knowledge, integrity,
The essentials.
and maybe even a little bit of confidence.
Until next time, happy filing.